Hello, everybody. I'm happy to welcome back Mary Higbe. You're my first repeat interviewee, so it's good to have you back from Goliath Games.
Hello, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Well, I'm here to talk to you today because we're going to talk about a game that is probably custom built for the time we're all living in now. Last time we talked about we're stuck in a bad scenario with COVID and being stuck at home. And I don't know how to artfully describe what game are we talking about today, Mary?
We're going to talk about Shit Happens, which is probably the catchphrase of 2020.
Yes. So it probably fits perfectly. Why don't you describe what is, I guess I'll just say, this is the first time I've cursed in an interview. Shit happens. What is Shit Happens?
All right. Shit Happens is from Goliath's Games Adults Play line.
Wait, this is for adults?
This is not for the elementary school crowd unless you have a real interesting elementary school, in which case, you know what, go for it. 2020, all rules are off, nothing
You be you.
Right. So in Shit Happens, you are simply ranking various shitty situations. So, and you rank them on a scale from 1 to 100. It's a card game. So stepping on a Lego is pretty rotten.
Yes.
Is it worse than finding out that your parents are swingers?
Oh.
Just jump.
That's a tough one, right? You kind of went for the jugular there. I was thinking, no, probably not.
So there are 200 shitty situations that you have to rank. And like I said, it's a card game. You're trying to build your lane of pain up to 10 cards. If you get an answer right, you win the card. 10 cards, you win the game. And you know more shit than you did before you played this shitty game.
And you talk about determining, a lot of these games are sort of more about the process of debating with people and having conversations, or is there sort of this is the right answer in this game?
This one is this is the right answer in this game. All the cards are ranked from 1 to 100, and if you add in expansion packs, you even get decimal points. Theoretically rank up to, I think, 800 different shitty situations. And if this game sounds a little bit familiar, like, oh, I think I saw a game show about that. That's true. TBS developed Shit Happens into a game show called The Misery Index, which...
Oh, that's you guys.
That's us.
Oh, very cool. I guess they couldn't call the show Shit Happens.
Exactly. Yeah, they had to do some refinement, and you can't get an announcer to like actually pronounce an asterisk. So just call it The Misery Index. We all know what we're in for. So,
okay, how did you determine in making this game what the right answer is? Because obviously I might have a thing about Legos on my foot versus swingers, but who decided for you?
A panel of renowned medical professionals, including psychologists and psychologists, some sociologists, and then just people around the office.
So there's actually, except for the people around the office, there actually is a scientific of sorts justification for these answers.
There is a bit of a method to the madness. One of the things that's looked at is kind of the long-term trauma that any of these situations would cause. However, I have gotten into debates, actually one with a gentleman at Gen Con. And people watching this are going to get a freebie if they ever get this card in a game. But one of the cards in the original Shit Happens is a squirrel gets into your house. And it's ranked pretty low. It's ranked as, it's either a 3 or a 12. I think it's a 3. And this gentleman almost flipped the table on me because a squirrel had gotten into his house and lived there for 3 months and caused tens of thousands of dollars in damage to his house. So he firmly believed that it was way above a 3. Having not had a squirrel in my house, I could only sympathize and say, well, that's what the card says, but thanks for sharing.
Sir, if you are watching this interview, I will tell you I have not had a squirrel in my house, but I still would rank finding out my parents were swingers as being higher than that, even with the $10,000 in damage. So when was the original Shit Happens released?
It was in 2018.
So I'm assuming we're talking because there's some new goodness. So let's say someone's had that game for a couple of years and they're tired of the situations. You might have referenced some expansions that people could get.
Right. So we
And that's
have
the thing with card games. Like whenever you have a game like that, you have to get expansions to keep it going. So talk to me about what you've got.
exactly. So we have expansions and we have different versions.
Okay.
For expansions, specifically for Shit Happens, we have Too Shitty for Work, because we all know there are situations at work which are just shitty. And those cards are ranked a little bit differently. So like I said, they're an expansion pack. You can throw them in with your original Shit Happens or play them on your own. There's the Little Shits expansion pack, which is all about children. There is 50 Shades of Shit, which is all romantic type things.
That could be a disaster.
And that's the one, let my experience and my pain be your guide. Don't play it with your mom.
Well, yeah, I guess that I would say that goes without saying, but apparently it didn't. So is that a new card, playing this game with your mom?
We had some interesting discussions. I just kept feeding her wine. But the way that it happened was we had the original Shit Happens and 50 Shades, and we had mixed them together when we had some friends over. And I had forgotten about it until we were into the game. And I'm like, oh, this could be its own card.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. So then beyond that, we do have one that is toned down called Bleep Happens. It's SH*T if you're looking for it on a shelf. And then we have one that we made exclusively for Walmart called Parenting Stuff Happens. And those
Stuff Happens? Is that because they didn't want to get close to the S word, I guess?
Right. We just took that one right out of there. But it's all the scenarios that your kid gets in, or that you get in because you have a kid. So, for example, you help with homework and the teacher gives it a failing grade.
Oh, that hurts.
Or your kid dances like a stripper in a restaurant.
That's embarrassing. Yes, those I don't know how I would rank those. Those are both bad. So between the editions, if people are trying to figure out, because a lot of people are completists, is Shit Happens different from SH, asterisk T Happens? Is that a different game or just a different label on the box?
You'll have some crossover in the cards, but definitely the more risque cards have been taken out and replaced for Blank Happens.
So it's a safer version of the same game, basically.
It is.
And then the Walmart one, is that a completely different game with new situations?
Correct.
So you also those are the additions, those are the expansions. Is there anything else coming out new that people are still sitting at home quarantine? What can they do to enjoy this game aside from what you've got?
So knowing that everybody was stuck at home and we were all living in this, do I get dinged if I say unprecedented time? Has that one been said too many times in 2020?
I mean, it's still, I guess it's becoming its own precedent, but yes, I could think you could say.
Right, these are now precedented times. But back in early April, late March, when this was all still very new, going through some of the cards in Shit Happens, and we were like, some of these are kind of relevant. And we said, why don't we develop a spring 2020 edition that will put on gamesadultsplay.com, and people can download it there for free. They can download printable files, send them to a printer. They can, whatever their level of comfort is, they can go and pick them up after they've been printed and cut. They can have somebody deliver them. Maybe they work in a print shop. Maybe they want to use their home printer to print out 200 cards that have a whole lot of ink on them. It's really up to the user.
You save yourself the cost of the package, but then you buy a new toner cartridge.
Exactly. But we knew that people would want to be able to get a new game while they're at home, not have to, you didn't want to go to the store and just browse through games, or maybe you wanted to and you just couldn't.
Right.
But this was about making some fun more accessible for people, giving people something new, giving them something relevant. What's interesting is when we were developing this version, it was a very quick development cycle, like 2 weeks. As I was writing some of the cards, I'm like, man, I hope these stay relevant. And now I'm like, okay, these have been relevant for just far too long.
Fortunately, they stayed relevant. Yeah, so thank you. It's all your fault, Mary.
I know. I will take responsibility. If I have to sacrifice myself to end this, let's do it.
So you actually worked on the actual cards.
I did.
That's cool.
I did. And we definitely had some debate over where different items ranked. But you have to look at it through the lens of kind of where we were in spring 2020 and what was going on then. Like there are references to Tiger King. There are references to, can you believe that was just like 6 months ago?
It's like, yeah, it feels like forever, but it really wasn't that long ago.
Right. References to your roommate throwing a party, or finding out that your parents aren't social distancing, or you have to listen to every single White House briefing, kind of everything that just was spring 2020 that is now nearly fall 2020.
All those things are still in place.
Exactly. We've shifted from the new normal to just, well, that's normal. But it's a great game that whether you have the box sets or you have the downloadable version, it's super easy to play via Zoom, where if you have one person who has the cards, they can read out scenarios to other people, and the person reading the cards just acts as the game master and keeps score for people.
And that's really important right now, because like even if you're in a place and you're not as strict on the social distancing or you're not stuck in your house, I think they are still advising that you don't want to have game parties. Even if you feel like it's okay to go to the store, you really don't want to have 20 people over to play cards or whatever like you used to. So that Zoom ability is really nice.
Yes. We experimented with a lot of our games to see what we could do via Zoom, and this one works almost perfectly.
So you probably don't know because you just got done with the this cool free downloadable one, but is there a future in store for more shitty things happening in our lives, card game wise? I'm not asking you about society.
How deep do you want to go?
Yeah, let me tell you.
Yeah, I mean, now that we've explored the option and gone through with it and kind of figured out pitfalls, things to avoid, things we do differently next time, I think there's definitely a future. Like I said, it was also a quick development cycle for us. It wasn't terribly expensive for us to do. The cost of printing out the decks is, depending on your printer, like $10 to $12. So it's a super easy solution for people who are bored, who still want to do the right thing and stay at home as much as possible. Not roam around stores aimlessly, but just do what everybody else is doing and spend ridiculous amounts of money online, except this is free.
Yeah, that's really nice of you. And is it integrated with, let's assume they get it printed on, actually it doesn't even need to be because there's nothing secret about it. Is it integratable with the other versions and the other editions that you have? Is it the same scoring system and things like that?
There's a little bit of scoring overlap, and there were a few cards that we pulled from various decks just because they aligned so perfectly, like you're out of toilet paper.
That was seeing the future almost, right?
Right, like we didn't need to redo that card. So while it's not 100% perfectly compatible with other decks, you can still combine them and have fun, but it's fantastic. You just play on its own.
And I think we kind of, if people have been watching this interview for the first 15 minutes, they probably kind of know the answer to this, but who is the target audience for any of these games in terms of, who would like it, the age group? I think that's kind of obvious, but what can you tell the people of, hey, I think this game might be for me? What's your target?
You got to have kind of an off sense of humor for sure. And if you do like debate with your friends, this is a great one. Ages 18 and up, please, because we got some bad words, we got some bad situations. I don't want anybody sad. We've been recommending it heavily to college kids who are, moving into the dorms or moving into an apartment with a couple of friends and really aren't supposed to be going anywhere. It's still a great time for games. It's a great way to get to know people, maybe get to know a few too many things about people. But yeah, ages 18 and up. I've played it with everyone from, college kids through my parents.
So yeah, let me ask you about that. So it's 18 and up because of the words, obviously the title of the game, but is it chock full of like obscure pop culture references that only someone who was alive in the 70s or 80s or 60s would get, or are they all relatable that an 18-year-old is just as competitive with these crappy situations as a 40, as a 50-year-old?
They are all pretty relatable. 50 Shades definitely has some kind of Urban Dictionary-ish terms that maybe everybody's familiar with. I don't know. I don't know your life. And the 2020 edition obviously has some things, like I mentioned, like Tiger King, that were more relevant in the spring than they are now. And
but there's nothing like your ABBA record gets broken or something where someone's like, I don't even know who ABBA is.
No.
And is game, unlike some of the games of the same genre, the card party games, it does seem to have a right answer and a win. Is it about the process or about the winning? Because it sounds like there's plenty of room to debate that scoring system, even though it's pretty scientific.
Right. This, like the air quotes.
Yeah.
I mean, you can debate all you want, but at the end of the day, the number on the card is the number on the card. So you do want to win. You have a clear path to winning. We've actually rolled out in the past few months, we do a live game show with a media group here in Dallas to play Shit Happens Spring 2020. And we get local celebrities, and they all play via Zoom from their homes. And I think one of the episodes lasted 2 hours because they couldn't resist arguing over every single one. But it was great, I mean, from my perspective, to watch, okay, this is how people who've never played this before are actually playing it. And I'm not there to coach anybody through this. I'm just sitting at home watching it all play out. And knowing that there's a right answer, you may not believe it's the right answer, but then even having the conversation about, okay, what makes this only a 27 when I think it should be above a 54?
Right. So that's probably where more of the fun is than when, I mean, winning's fun, but when you're with a couple of people, reading the situations and arguing about it and trying to change the card answer, which is impossible, as you've just told us, seems like where the real fun's at. So
right. And there's also, we're all looking for something fun and different and exciting. This definitely has shock value, where you'll read some of the things on the cards and you're like, oh my gosh, how twisted is the person who wrote this?
And I guess the answer is it's you.
In some cases, yeah. In some cases, it's me.
I do like your wiggle room. You're like, if it's really bad, I'm not owning it. But if it's sort of bad, I'll own it, sort of thing.
Yeah. Most things in spring 2020, I'll own.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
The game, not in
real life. You're not saying it happened to you. You're just saying you'll own the card. So
I definitely need to codify that.
Yes. Well, Mary, I think you referenced this, but I just want to make sure if people are intrigued by this game and they want to check it out, where is it available? Aside from first of all, where can they get the downloadable one? And then where can they buy the retail version if they want to get those as well?
You can get the downloadable one at gamesadultsplay.com. We also have links for purchase on gamesadultsplay.com. You can also find them all on Amazon.
So this is a mass market game you can get anywhere and everything.
Correct.
Excellent. Well, I've appreciated you talking about this game. It makes a shitty situation possibly better, and I'm looking forward to testing it out and doing a kind of a review for people as well, along with this interview. So thanks so much, and I'm sure you'll hopefully reach out to us with your next crazy game you got coming out.
Oh my gosh, of course. We sure will.
Thanks a lot, Mary.
You bet. Take care.
You too.
See ya.
See ya.